Welcome and give a warm round of applause to our host, Katie Ross.
To get things started today, really just want to welcome our alumni who are here from Google and Facebook, and really want to start with just you guys introducing yourself and explain to the group maybe the degree program you graduated from and what your current role is.
Okay, I guess I'll start. My name is Kourtni Marshall. I graduated from the Recording Arts program. Worked in the music industry for several years, but actually now I'm a software engineer at Google.
My name is Joe Venters, and I graduated way back in 2003 from degree program Digital Media. I am still in a related field working as a senior interaction designer at Google Nest.
Hey, I'm David Drips. I graduated from Recording Arts in 2005, and now I'm a software engineering manager at Facebook.
Yes, wow, pretty incredible. So as you can see, graduated with unique backgrounds, different degrees, but yet working in the technology field. So I really want to start with Kourtni and David. You both have a degree in music, but yet you're working in technology. So talk to us a little bit about how those skills that you got in your education transferred over into your current role now.
Well, for me, the transition was more so I had an idea about what I wanted to do with music and technology. So I kind of just used the passion that I had for the music industry already with the ideas that I had for where technology and music could go. And that kind of is what fueled my, my transition into computer science.
Mm-hmm. Got it?
Yeah. It's a great question. So I did both the Recording Arts program and the Entertainment Business Bachelor's program. And for me, it was really in the Entertainment Business program where I took an entrepreneurship class and was like, oh, that's what I want to do. And so that sort of like sparked the whole thing. You got to move to Silicon Valley, start your own deal. That's where you do it. And that led, through experience and stuff to working at Facebook. Today, though, I think there's like certain things that are universally applicable that Full Sail does particularly well. And we were actually talking about this in the car earlier as we were doing a campus tour of like collaboration between the different degree programs, between the same classes on projects and things. And that kind of stuff is invaluable, I think, across any industry. Specific to software, though, the accountability that I think Full Sail has, like the attendance policy here sucked, right? Like, yeah, to be everywhere on time, all the time. I think that sort of discipline, though, and instilling that early has been like pretty substantial for me, and just being able to transition from music to technology. Yeah, and so the discipline side that I think Full Sail instilled was like a really key piece of the transition and continues to be important today.
Mm-hmm. So Joe, you are a senior interaction designer, right, who works on a vast number of teams to develop different software. Yes. So tell us about your background and how you leverage those skills to deliver products.
Well, I will suggest even back in 2003, the industry was completely different, and I think a little bit of advice for all of you guys is to be flexible and always remain, your career journey may take you into interesting spots, so be flexible and be open. But regarding the skills I learned from Full Sail specifically, I think, as you guys can imagine, I work at Google. I'm surrounded by brilliant folks. I collaborate with alumni from MIT to Yale to Cornell, Harvard every day. And all of those late night classes, all of those accelerated curriculum, in some small, tiny way, I think gave me like a leg up on that Harvard graduate. By all means, if you've been accepted to Harvard, please go. You should definitely do that. But it's that scrappiness that I think I bring that's kind of helped me to deliver when I needed to deliver on certain things. And I think a lot of that came from grinding it out here at Full Sail.
Right. Makes complete sense. So tell us, all of you, about a project that you have worked on, that you've developed, that was a success, and how your diverse background played a role in that success.
I guess I'll start this one. Yeah, specifically in my technology career, I used to work on a team called Pages, so like businesses on Facebook. It's funny, this is a little bit of an aside, but like I was actually introduced to the idea of e-commerce here at Facebook. Again, during the entertainment business bachelor's program, we had an e-commerce course. And that's like the first time I started tinkering with like web development and all that kind of stuff, because all my experience prior to that was like stuff you guys won't even remember. I'm not going to date myself here. But yeah, so like my first experience in e-commerce was there, and then moving to Pages was like a pretty logical path for me, like helping other businesses across the world like build online presences and actually put food on the table for their family and their employees' families. As far as like recording arts is concerned, we across Facebook, there's an initiative around like live video and shows and these types of things. And one of the interesting things that happened was they went to build their own version of like what a show is. And we were like, hey, you should use Pages because you'll get insights and moderation and admins and like all the moderation tools and everything that you need. They decided not to do that until like 3 months later they came back to us and were like, hey, you were right. Can we use your stuff and can you help us move everything over? And we're like, sure. But it was really cool because the people that we were working with were like Instagram influencers and musicians and all the types of people that I got really comfortable working with in like the studio when they'd come in here. And they'd come visit us and tell us about like what they want out of Facebook for their products. And I think I was one of the few people who have like, oh, been here, done that. Like I've talked to you people before, and everybody else was just like, oh my God. But yeah, like you ask better questions, you're like able to like get to like the heart of their needs and stuff when you're not like a little bit starstruck. And just the talent that came through Full Sail while I was here was like a real key when I was working with that similar talent just a few years ago. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So some of one of the big projects I worked on recently, and so just for context, I work on internal-facing products that save the company money or help fellow Googlers do their jobs better and stuff of that nature. So things that you guys wouldn't necessarily have a view on, but one of the projects that I did work on involved, we have GVCs, which are basically Google's video conferencing system within the company. And there used to be a process that basically, in order to get a recording of your GVC, you had to file these tickets and do all of this long, tedious process. And it was like a 2-week turnover to get a video. Like, didn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. So we created a system that actually was all online. It would index all of your videos as you created them, and you could access those internally. So that was like, it saved hundreds of hours of actual people handling these tickets. But, some of the things that, led to that project being successful were the things that you have to, kind of do here in terms of, figuring out, what your problem set is, understanding who you need to talk to help facilitate, hey, I have this idea. Maybe I don't know how to implement all of the things. Do I need to talk to one of my professors? Do I have a colleague who knows how to do some of these things? So you have to kind of round up your team that you want to, go to war with, and just like being able to get a good team together, no matter what you're working on, is going to be a real pivotal aspect of your success in the future. There's nothing that you do really that's going to be worthwhile that you're going to be able to do by yourself. So like I feel like being at Full Sail is one of those places where it really instills the value of collaboration and teamwork, and that'll take you very far.
Yeah, and I can just piggyback on that a little bit. One of the more notable features in my career, it's public, it's called Sightline. It's essentially a timeline mechanism underneath your camera view that allows you to scrub through in a time-lapse fashion through up to 30 days worth of video history. sounds pretty simple, but there was a ton of technological constraint around getting that out the door, as you can imagine. Tons of technologies I didn't even understand. So I can recall I made a decision to move my desk to sit out of the design team. I hauled over and set up camp by the engineering team, right next to the engineers that were responsible for building that product. And, late nights, bringing in some beers and donuts in the morning, and really just trying to foster those great relationships with the people that were responsible for helping me realize my vision. I mean, not just mine solely, but it definitely harkens back to when I was here at Full Sail, and just we would leave class and drink some beers and crack open the laptops and get to it. And I definitely I'm thankful for my experiences here that kind of gave me a little bit of that.
Yeah, I like that you, Joe, referred to it earlier as scrappy skills.
Yeah.
But it is really important, and I think through the attendance policy and all the diverse backgrounds of people you interact with and the different labs that we have on campus that you go into, you start to build unique skills that you can transfer around that are important to success. So when you think about companies like Google and Facebook, how important do you think it is that they're hiring people with these types of skill set, the diverse background, the ability to transition around?
Yeah. I think one of the things that I'm proudest of Facebook is encouraging really diverse backgrounds, diverse perspectives. When you're working at a company whose mission is to connect everybody on the planet,
Right.
You'd be hard pressed to build a compelling product if you didn't have representation of people from all sorts of backgrounds and interests and things like that, or else you're not going to build a relatable product for the masses. So I think especially at Facebook, and I can't speak for Google, but I would imagine given their scale, it's similar. It's not just preferred, it's essential. You can't have everybody from the exact same cookie cutter background, or you're going to build something that's really good for that cookie cutter set of people and not good for anybody else. So I guess it's essential.
Sure. Yeah, I would suggest, I don't want to paint the picture that education isn't important to companies like Google.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually very important. So while you're here, make the most of it. And, I would suggest, your GPA will follow you, even from Full Sail, no matter how scrappy you may be. Hindsight is everything, though, I suppose. But yeah, similar to what David was saying, it's really, be true to yourself, identify what kind of things you want to work on, and go for it. You'll find what works for you, and hopefully, you'll end up at a place like Facebook or Google, or hopefully not. Who knows where you'll end up, but, I definitely tell you guys all to just be true to what you want to work on.
Right, and I'll just add to that just a little bit. And I think most people at Full Sail are already following their passions. So I don't, preaching to the choir here, but I think if you're passionate about something, whatever it is, be true to it, as he mentioned, and that will take you to the next step, so because you're going to put more energy into that thing that you love doing than that thing that you think you have to do. And I think companies like Google and Facebook and other groundbreaking companies are looking for folks who have, that drive, who will be doing this even if they weren't working at the company. And so, you don't have to look any particular way. You don't have to necessarily, think a particular way other than trying to think to the next level, right? So, you don't have to be of a particular, political background or anything like that, but you have to be thinking about what's next. Always be thinking that way, and that's the diversity, because my thought of what's next is not your thought of what's next. Right. And when we combine those things together, that's the diversity that's we will actually get to the real what's next. It's not going to be just what I thought or just what you thought or just what he thought. It's going to be a combination of all those things.
Yeah, I would also encourage you guys not to keep the
going.
Conversation rolling, but ask yourself, do you want to work at a big corporation? It's especially right out of school while you still have this fire and passion and maybe not a ton of debt or not a ton of obligation to your family. But with that, if you do end up at a place like Google or Facebook, there is tons of opportunity to still sort of, realize your passion. We have a program at Google where there's an internal site that's just full of internal roles that, hey, like maybe you're tired of working on Android Auto, or you want to get off of working on comms, you can go find a job in Zurich working on ads. I mean, so there is a ton of benefit to a place like that, but it definitely has its trade-offs.
Yeah, and so the curriculum piece, you're right, is very important, especially too, again, you're in a field that's pushing things forward when it comes to technology. So how are you guys staying on top of current trends that are going on, and I'm assuming you guys have all stayed on top of it, I mean, I know that you have, but how has it also helped in your growth and helped your companies as well?
I'll start, I'll say it's harder than it seems. I'll just put it like that. Even at a company as groundbreaking as Google is, if you think about how fast technology moves, if a company the size of Google tried to change everything it did every time a new, language came out or a new platform came out, it'd be a constant thing of the entire company just trying to relearn everything. So that's not practical.
Right.
Yet and still, we have to take the time to kind of like realize which of these things that is, on the horizon really has the potential to be a long-term technology, a real game changer. And those are the things that we have to kind of strategically invest ourselves into. So, it's a dance. You never, sometimes you don't know. Sometimes you put your eggs in this basket, and then it's like, oh, well, actually, this is the thing that took off. So, once you recognize that you're going the wrong way is the wrong term necessarily, but once you realize that maybe you're investing in a technology that isn't as widely adopted by the public, well, maybe it is time to change if that will actually serve your needs. So those are the things that we do on my team. We look at the things that both are used within the industry, but also that we think is going to have longevity and that we can maintain within the company as well.
I think, at least on my team, there's a common thread of sort of organic sharing of technologies and sort of a cultural trait of being on top of some of that. We kind of want to at least be on it when it comes to IoT. And so it's unavoidable in some ways, but I think in a lot of ways you have to be proactive about staying on top of some of it to a degree. Whatever you're working in, I find it, you got to drink the Kool-Aid. You got to be living with the stuff you're working on, and I'm a big advocate for that. So I try to do my best, but I got 2 kids, so sometimes it's not as easier said than done.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair. I'm in a pretty unique position when it comes to this because I work on an open source technology called GraphQL, which is just an API for sending and receiving data. But we are only relevant insofar as like any application can use our technology. So if a new language comes out or a new technology, it's actually sort of in my job description to make sure that we're accounting for it and building client libraries and things for them. So I'm a little bit forced to do that on the technical side, as well as we have just like tons of like really large companies using our technology. So I'm also required to keep up with what they're doing with it and how it's evolving and is it meeting their needs. Because we have a conference in Berlin in a few weeks where we're talking about like how the language is evolving. So we're actually setting the trend in a lot of ways for how our technology is used, but within this broader ecosystem, it requires us to keep on top of how technology is changing over time.
Right. So how do you see technology working together to shape how consumers interact with media and entertainment and film of the future? Big question. It's a lot of dreaming here. We're at Full Sail, so there's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah, I'll give you my opinion here.
Yeah.
I'm old, right? Like, I don't get, like, Snapchat and stuff. Like,
Instagram, maybe?
Instagram, like, that's part of Facebook, so, like, I get it, But, like, it's crazy to me that I was talking to somebody earlier that somebody would want to just, like, live stream them, like, cooking dinner. Like, I wouldn't think that's, like, that interesting, but it gets, like, millions of views. And I'm like, I don't know how this works. So I think that the 2 huge shifts that we've seen are, like, obviously mobile, right? even Facebook didn't see mobile coming. There was like, you can go read the history of it, but it changed everything. And then 2 is the speed of like mobile networks, right? And just we can stream video like sitting here. I was doing some work earlier, and it was faster to tether from my phone than it was to connect to Wi-Fi in this other at my hotel. So those 2 things combined are just changing the accessibility of media, both in like people creating it and people consuming it in a way that is just completely never been done before. As it relates specifically to Full Sail, and like the reason I wish it existed when I was here, is there used to be gatekeepers on this stuff. Like if you wanted to be a top-selling artist, which I did, I wanted to be a rock star, so I came here, you had to like get signed. You don't anymore. You go to a Google product called YouTube and like put up really high-quality content and, well, probably not get discovered, but odds are, but like that's how it's happening today, and then you don't have to like go to somebody for approval before you can express your craft, express your art, and get it out in front of people, and that's super, super powerful.
Yeah, another way I think that technology has really influenced how media is not, consumed, produced, all of those things, is the democratization of these platforms. So before to, create content, it took a certain level of monetary backing to make that possible. Nowadays people are able to produce, movies from their phones. I mean, just literally produce movies from their phones. I mean, so that by itself is it's based on technology, and it opens up, that to the world. Another thing that, there are so many other ways that I think it has changed. And like, I'll give an example that I recently came across, which is like the interactivity that we can now put into the media that we consume. I grew up back in the day when you could read a book and it was like choose your own adventure books.
Yeah.
Now they have choose your own adventure movies. Like there's a recent movie that was released on Netflix where you can actually make decisions for the characters as you're watching it. I mean, to me, that is like crazy. So, but that's just an example of the technology that we have is now changing. Something that was purely a book type of thing, it's making that available in other media forms.
Yeah, I'm going to speak to just some concern I have with how technology is influencing, entertainment, media. From a data-driven perspective, working at a place like Google, it's all about trying to be making assumptions on behalf of customers and what they like, and it's already begun. Like there's algorithms running at Spotify, suggested playlists, suggested songs, artists, and even working at Google Nest, it would be great. You walk into a room that's playing, Ariana Grande or whomever, I'm a big fan. No, but however, I do recall, and you guys, some of you in the room may also recall a time where you would walk into a record store, CD store, and you couldn't listen to it up front unless you were one of those big ones, you could scan the barcode. Anyway, I digress. But I would literally pick out, artists based off of like album artwork, and I would go home and some would be duds, but some would be amazing. And I hope we don't lose some of that. I hope we don't get too lost in curation and, also label influence over the curation and the playlists that I see, Yeah. Where's the good raw, record store equivalent? Yeah.
But how do you think students can prepare for a field, whether it's keeping it to what is special to some of us, as well as the growth in the Black Mirror episode that you were talking about, that sort of thing? How can students prepare for that? What would be your recommendations?
I think the preparation, because basically you're saying how do you prepare for the next thing that's happening in the future? Honestly, I think it's just to dream big and think beyond what is currently happening in front of you. Because, the people who are the most prepared for tomorrow are the folks who are willing to also let go of what they hold, today is happening. You have to, let that go and say, hey, well, maybe it used to be that the only time, if I wanted to listen to a song, I had to rely on DJs or me owning an actual, CD or whatever. But the DJ isn't necessarily going to play what I want to play. With things like Spotify, I can have the entire almost world library at my fingertips, and I can listen to what I want to listen to. So I just think that being able to let go almost of the things that you kind of like, you might hold it dear right now, but if we just hold on to that, we might not get to the next thing. So that's kind of my thought, is like, how do you prepare for the next thing is be willing to let go of what exists right now.
Nice.
Yeah, and I'll just jump in on that too. I'm with you. Like, students, you guys should definitely, in the landscape today, definitely maintain an air of flexibility. Like, don't dig your heels in too much into one specific technology. Allow yourself to adapt if needed, because at a base, it's all the same stuff. Whether it's a brand name mixer, or if it's on your iPad, it's mixing tunes.
Yeah. I think for me, like, I came to Full Sail to like do stuff differently, Like, everybody wanted me to go to like another college, and I was like, that seems so boring, Like, I don't want to do that. So I came to Full Sail because I thought it would be fun and interesting, and just because it was different. And I came to like change the way we made music. I don't know if I actually did that, but like that was the goal coming in. Mm-hmm. And so my entire career, and the reason I chose Full Sail and everything, was because I wanted to just embrace change and be a part of the change. And so I think that spirit pretty much permeates this place. And to echo what both of them already said, is just like, keep that spirit alive. Like, be ready for the change, and like just help make the change. Don't be the guy who's trying to keep things status quo because you're fighting a losing battle.
Within your departments, how often are you guys cross-collaborating with other departments to create projects and talk to consumers?
Okay, yeah, I'll start this one. I mean, the technology that I work on is an internal tool. So we are actually the gateway between the servers and the mobile apps. And at F8, which is like our annual developer conference, we announced like a redesign of the website, which will also be powered by GraphQL and my teams. So that is to say, we literally work with every product team through like a set of other teams, like sister teams to ours. We solve problems. We have teams releasing new features, teams like improving performance, teams like just consulting on the best way to architect something. So as a manager specifically, this might be different for other roles, but like that's basically my whole job. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty darn important. Yeah.
So my team, we also make internal things, as I mentioned earlier. And so, how that basically works is we're making something for, to solve a problem either for a particular team. So that means we have to, kind of understand the problems and together figure out, what's the best solution for it. Or it may be a collective problem that, multiple teams at Google are facing. And so in that sense, we have to kind of like get a pulse of what are the main pain points and all of these things. So long and the short is that it's imperative for us to understand who our clients are. Our clients are the other teams, and understand what they're, how to get to their solution, and that requires a lot of conversations and understanding their problems.
Yeah, as an independent contributor on a consumer-facing product, I collaborate with other teams daily on the regular. And I think one thing that's sort of lost with traditional education is the importance of soft skills and recognizing, the things you need to do to foster relationships with other people that you work with, and realize that you guys are all working towards the same goal. So I think it's applicable regardless of what field you're in. To even now, you can do this when you're working, realize who's responsible, who you're working with, and give them a little pat on the back. I find that it goes a long way. And in addition to that, I always try to get people involved early. Like, if you have a vision, if you have a goal and you think it's super tight, get the game developer. You got a game idea that's going to make $1 bazillion. Let them know now. Get them bought in before the hard work comes. Right? Sell your vision the whole way. If you're a designer, if you're freelancing, whatever. reveal the veil and show your client the work in progress. It'll behoove you, all of you guys.
Can I ask a random question to the audience?
Absolutely.
How many people still say tight?
Hey, all right.
All right, that's better. You guys make me feel young again. I heard it, I was like,
Do you feel
yes.
younger now?
That's like one of those words. I was just like,
Yeah.
Maybe by the end of tomorrow, we can get Snapchat on your phone.
Let's do it, guys.
Yeah,
Snapchat.
Okay, so what are the ways that you think students can highlight the cross-collaboration component that, as you all just mentioned, are integral to what you're doing every day on their resume, website, and LinkedIn so that employers will actually see that the student's coming to the table with a diverse background?
So I think one of the, especially nowadays, everything is so digitized, and it's a lot easier to kind of just prove it, just like, hey, here's a link to whatever this thing is I did. So I think some of that is just to, have the final product accessible online. So that's just like one easy way. Other than that, even though you have that thing online and it's accessible, you should be able to, describe your role in it and just, describe how you helped bring it to fruition. A lot of times we just say, I did this project, but you didn't do the whole project. You did a part of the project. And so being able to say, oh, yeah, I'm the one that handled this aspect of it in coordination with 3 other folks,
Yes.
blah, blah, blah. Those are how you kind of like just spell it out for people.
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked this. I see portfolios and resumes come across my desk that they look great. It might as well be, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Dribble, but they're beautiful, lots of great pixels, but they're like obviously large projects that, I have no idea, what was their impact, what did they do, what was their role. So I'd encourage all of you guys, while you're in the project, take note of the impact you're having, take note of the shortcomings and why, and like clearly articulate that when you show me that. Don't just show me videos of your game or gameplay or show me, beautiful, renderings of the UI. Like, how did you get there and how did you start and what did you learn from the whole process? Definitely, you will stand out. Believe me, there's not enough people doing this today. Tell the story, for sure.
yeah, this is not going to answer your question, but to echo his point, like the biggest difference that I see in people who are really getting ahead in their careers, and this is just in my personal experience versus not, is the people who are really self-reflective. So the people who at the end of a project are like, awesome, we did it, this is the value that we had, and here's all the things that we won't do again next time or could have gone better. And the process by which you do that is exactly what Joe described. Just be taking notes all the time and always keep the end goal in mind so you don't get distracted. But I think that's a really, really mature observation. Be self-critical. You're not going to be perfect on any project. No project's going to go perfect. Software is notorious for being late. That's going to happen, right? Why? Don't make the same mistake twice. It's okay to make a mistake once. It's not okay to make it twice.
Yes.
So last question before we open it up for questions from the audience, but how do you guys stay focused and kind of keep driving forward and looking at the big picture?
Yeah, I have a pretty formal process for this. I'll tell you what I do, take what you want from it. I spend a half hour every morning free typing, and just whatever comes in my head, I just don't stop typing for 30 minutes, and then I take 15 minutes and just cut and paste out the key things that came to mind, things I need to do, cool ideas, whatever. And I find when I'm in that sort of daydreaming flow state kind of thing, that the goal that I'm working towards at work always sort of comes to the top at some point. And lets me get through the cruft of oh, I had a bad night last night or somebody called me a name or whatever, and get back to focusing on what really matters. And then I use a journal, a bullet journal, if you guys have Googled that, to just keep track of everything. I have monthly goals and then daily tasks. That's my process. Yeah.
You got some tips?
Yeah, I got a couple tips. I'm with you. Lists, always good. Make some to-do lists, but allow yourself to slip away. You need to not be thinking on work mode all the time, even throughout the day. Identify that. I also find like mindfulness, like 3 deep breaths just to like breathe in the bad and let it go is super helpful to reset. And I'm telling you guys, the importance of exercise is crazy. It's bonkers. So especially as you get to my age, a good run, a good jog, a few times a week helps you reset and stay focused.
He spoke about mindfulness, and that's like one thing that I always try to do. I kind of suck at the mindfulness thing, like, 'cause it's a very deliberate thing. But, for me, how I keep kind of like focused on the thing I want to get done is actually I try to create, well, when I do it best, I put it like this. I create these goals that I want to hit. And so it's like I have this goal, and I try to make it kind of a big goal, not something super small, because that happens too quickly, but something that's kind of big, and then something that's going to make me do further steps to achieve that goal. A lot of times it's like, okay, I want to do this thing, I don't know how to do it yet, so I need to do some research on it, and blah, blah, blah. So that's kind of like driving me to this part. Now the bigger thing is understanding where that goal fits into my larger goal, right? So I have a long-term goal, and then I'm setting all of these little signposts along the way that I need to check off, because when you're dreaming big, there's a lot of things that you don't know, right? I want to get to the moon. Well, you have to learn how to fly first, right? So there's a lot of things you have to do along the way, and I try to set those posts, and I'm just laser focused on the next post. Like, okay, what do I need to get this done? I have to figure this out. I have to meet these people. I have to learn this thing or whatever, and that's kind of how I've done it throughout my life.
Perfect. Excellent. So what questions do we have from our audience? Nice.
I can hardly see.
Hi, so my name is Juliet Angel. I'm a mobile dev, and I also have an undergrad on sports marketing and media. What is your guys' advice on, I'm building my resume because I'm about to graduate, and I want to understand to put both my other undergrad, sports marketing, and mobile dev to be able to kind of be more selective into what I want to do, because my passion has been making apps and technology and all that. But what do you guys recommend, and what advice I can put into that?
I can field this one, or to start. Yeah, you don't have any experience yet, so load it up with as much stuff as you can. Put your other degrees and stuff on there. The other thing is, don't think that one resume is going to get you there, right? Like, if you have a company in mind, like, tailor it to them. Like, yes. What you're running on now is your passion for both like the technology and for what they're working on. Let that come across. Like, communicate that in your resume so that you're not just another like filtered thing. But yeah, put a bunch of stuff on there to show that you have a diversity of experience, but tailor it to each position. That'd be my.
Yeah, I think David said it great. Like, one size does not fit all, guys. I mean, like, also, it shouldn't. Like, don't send a bunch of resumes out to a bunch of companies you don't want to work for. That's so old school. Like, if you want to work for some companies, tailor your vision, tailor your, your experiences to that, and hopefully you'll get a bite, and then you go from there.
And I'll just add the part about tailoring your experiences. I think that's also very critical. Like, even if you're not, so say for instance, you might graduate, and then there's time between you getting hired, right? What you're doing in that in-between time, how you're tailoring the things that you are doing, is also part of your resume building process, right? So if you're, if you're just going home and you're not doing anything, you're not getting better, you're not practicing, you're not doing anything, you're not creating more content, well, you're gonna be at a disadvantage to the person that was doing all those things, right? So I would say to tailor your downtime in between getting that role, where you're kind of always kind of trying to still get a leg up, still be thinking about, I'm learning something new.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that also helps too with the showcasing the staying relevant in your field and being hungry for the knowledge that most companies are looking for when they hire somebody, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Before I ask my question, I just want to say I'm a huge fan of GraphQL.
Oh.
I think it's the future of API development. And I'm also
too.
a big fan of how the Facebook UI engineering team leveraged Relay to democratize their API calls. The performance benefits are very clear when you're using on mobile.
You're my favorite.
Okay. So my question is, at these large companies, it's very common to get burnt out and spend like 5 years working on some kind of analytics dashboard that only like 500 people will ever see, use, or care about. Are there mechanisms in place at these large corporations to like provide some kind of mobility when you're starting to get burnt out? And if there are, how accessible is it? Is it something that a junior developer has access to, or is it something you have to wait until you're at like a mid-level or senior level to get access to?
Well, for at Google, I can just speak for Google. I mean, moving throughout the company is part of the culture. Like, nobody expects you to join a team and be at that team for 5, 10 years. Like, if you want to do that, more power to you. But mobility is like kind of baked into it. Now, there are expectations that you spend like, I think it's 18 months with a team.
Yeah.
But that's so that there's stability within teams. But it is set up for you to kind of, you get into your first position, you learn the company, and then you kind of like start seeing, oh, well, there's this other thing within the company that I'm interested in. And you can start like, we have these things called 20% projects. You can start actually working toward moving to the next team while you're on your current team. So, I think at Google, it's a really good way for people to experiment with other things they may be interested in, or they may not be. You may start doing a 20% project and recognize that, oh man, I like what I'm doing on my current team way better than that stuff. But my point is, it is set up for that kind of movement.
Yeah, we have a really similar idea at Facebook. So I actually started on the front-end engineering team. I came in as a user interface engineer. And it was cool. I was on the same team for 5 years, 5.5 years actually. But I did a variety of things within that same team as well. So I did front end, I did some like database stuff. I eventually transitioned to management. But we have the same thing. So when you come in, like we ask that you stay for a year. One, because it takes a few months to ramp up to understand if you're going to like or not like something. If it's in extenuating circumstances, these aren't hard and fast rules. But we hired you for a reason, like contribute that type of value. And then, yeah, you're free to explore and see what's interesting to you, where you think you're going to make the most impact. I do want to like touch on one thing that you said, though, to sort of dispel a myth that you could work on like some analytics dashboard that only 200 people see for 5 years. That's awesome. And the cool thing about being a large company is that you can take risks and putting 5 or 10 people on a dashboard that maybe nobody uses, but if it had worked, would be like the next big thing. The other thing is like, who's your audience? Like those 200 people could be like all the executives of the company, and that's what they're using to make decisions. So I get your point about burnout, but just because like you aren't working on like a new flashy thing doesn't mean it's not like really engaging, really exciting. You're not going to like learn and grow there either. So be afraid to do like the dirty, like non-sexy work that nobody else wants to do, because there's more of it, and they're harder problems. You're going to learn more.
Yeah, and I think Kourtni spoke to sort of the tools available at Google, but on topic, I would just suggest that like, it's up to all of you guys. If you're not getting anything out of a project and you're burning out, find another project. Talk to your manager. Be transparent with your colleagues and your managers, your bosses, and change it up, man. Yeah, life is short. Career, and I think in tech also, like we really value diversity in projects too. And you worked on a little bit of that. That's okay.
All right, thank you.
And I think, too, touching back on how you guys stay focused, the journaling, the exercise is the other key component to the burnout piece that you can really experience in any field if you're not taking care of yourself.
Right, yeah, I was just going to add to the burnout part is that a lot of it is about self-care as well. Because, you can be working on the project that you love, actually, and get burnt out. So it's not just about, you working on a project that you don't like. Sometimes you're putting too much energy into one thing. You're not taking care of yourself. You're not getting your sleep. All those things. We work at companies where they provide a lot of resources to help combat that type of stuff. So we have mental health facilities, all types of things, exercise at work, and all of these perks. But if you don't have that, you still have to find time within to take care of yourself.
Yeah, pro tip, when I was going to Full Sail, I would nap in my car in the parking lot.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pro tip, you can have that one.
I literally just read a study. So imposter syndrome is rampant in tech. It probably is in other industries. And imposter syndrome, in case you don't know what that means, is like that they're going to find out that you're not good enough, right? And there was a study done, and it wasn't specific to any company, but the number one reason for imposter syndrome in like the Bay Area, the San Francisco Bay Area, was lack of sleep. And when people got 8 hours of sleep consistently, their imposter syndrome went away, and they're able to be more productive because they're not looking over their shoulder waiting for somebody to fire them. So yeah, to the self-care point, exercise, probably the number one thing, and sleep. Sleep. It's hard because you're on like a big. It's exciting. And here's what happens, all right, guys. You're sitting there and you're like, oh, I'm just gonna do this one thing before I go to bed, and then 4 hours later, you're like.
Yeah.
It happens. That's a cool thing. It feels great.
Right.
But sleep in or go to bed early the next day. It really matters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What other questions?
Hello. My name is Vagish. I'm in the entertainment business program, and I'm in the process of finding a job. So my question is, what would you suggest as the most practical and workable approach for me to land an interview with Facebook or Google?
Oh, man. Get to know somebody and get them to refer you internally. Email one of the people sitting on, say, a stage in a classroom at your school who work there. I don't know. That would be my suggestion.
So if that is the answer, can I get to know you people, through LinkedIn?
Well done. Well,
Absolutely. Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, I like it.
Key fact, the best way to get hired at Google, most likely Facebook, is actually to know somebody. Internal referrals are by far the most likely to be hired in Silicon Valley.
But I would suggest that if you don't, hear back or, you hear not right now, they mean it. Reapply. Right. Show back up. Even if you get an interview and you don't get it the first time, happened to me. Go back.
Yeah.
There's a ton of people in your role, and there's a lot of people out there, but we have so much growth and so much turnover. We're always, looking to add more folks.
And plus, if you don't make it the first time, you have, 6 months to learn more, get better at your skill as well. So don't think of it as a one and done type of thing. There's people who have reapplied 3, 4, 5 times. So
I want to just piggyback on something if you guys all get jobs at Facebook or Google out the gate, that's great, but likely you won't. I'm just going to be straight up with you guys. Get a job. Find whatever you can. Don't be super picky right now. Ship something. Go out there and build products. It's not going to be your job forever, likely. If it is, great, it worked out. So, yeah, there may not even be low-hanging fruit, but you can find some things and network. Talk to people. Be open to, anybody. Chat with them. Say what's up.
Yeah, another key way to be hireable is to already be hired.
Yes.
So, if you already have a job, somebody wants to hire you, believe me.
Yeah.
If you don't have a job, they may want to hire you, but they may not. Who knows?
Thank you so much.
you're welcome.
Hey guys, my name is Ajay. So I have a question. Oh yeah.
That's it.
So Facebook and Google both being at the forefront of innovation, I mean, one of the things that comes to the question is what kind of regulations do you put or a boundary to where the innovations go? You go to a point where you're hey, we are innovating too much, and this is probably in ethical grounds, or it could be on any kind of rational grounds, we are doing too much in terms of let's say machine learning, we are automating it too much, or is there some kind of things how do you guys handle that at both the companies respectively?
I'll be honest, that's above my pay grade necessarily, but there are standards that are in place at Google that kind of, steer things. And there are, limitations that they will set, but at my level, the things that we're creating internally to help other Googlers, most likely we're not really hitting those, those pieces. But that's a kind of a decision that has to be made by the leadership of a company to say, hey, everybody at the company, step back from this specific thing or not. I don't think we necessarily have too much say over over that.
Yeah. This is like a topic of like extreme sensitivity, so I'm not going to answer it. But I'll tell you two things. One is I'm really proud. I wish I could tell you like more details, but I'm really proud of like the strides that Facebook's making. These aren't problems that existed 5 years ago, right? These are new problems. Like there aren't standards for how this stuff works. I think that you'll see Mark Zuckerberg just went to Paris last week and is working with the government on like a 4-point plan or some bureaucratic thing to make sure that we're putting in and like setting good standards for this stuff going forward. And the other thing I'd like to draw attention to is like the hiring practices at Facebook. They're hiring just thousands and thousands of people whose sole job is to like help address like these exact concerns and then make sure that anything that is crossing whatever boundaries they work with legislation to set out are being enforced.
Okay, yeah. I just want to know, so it is definitely something which is being enforced in the bigger companies. That's kind of what I want.
It's definitely being thought about.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely thought about.
All of this stuff is in its infancy, though. We're just learning as we go. And I think for me, like working on Google Nest, like the home is such a sacred space, it's such a sacred place, and we realize that. But for us, a principle at all the people on my team and beyond is we are responsible, though, as the builders of these products. We have to like keep ourselves in check and test these products, ask ourselves is what we're doing is the right thing for our customers. And I think that definitely helps. It's definitely, so it goes top down in a lot of ways too, but in a lot of ways it's up to you guys, whatever you're working on. Definitely, keep yourself in check. If you don't agree with the ethics of the product you're working on or something's up, like be transparent, speak up.
Yeah, definitely. I would say that if you feel, and I feel like Google is the type of company where I've seen this, if you feel that something isn't appropriate, then you should just speak up about it and just, address it directly. A lot of times, in the past, like those are things that might have to do with privacy or XYZ. The kind of trickier things that you were mentioning with, machine learning, AI, those are things that, as you mentioned, are in their infancy, and there are teams of people trying to figure it out. There are like, groups and groups of folks, not just within our company, but that collaborate with other companies to try to say, hey, should any of us be going down this path? Yeah. So it's a much bigger question than just any one team or person or anything like that.
Yeah. Just one last thing. I will say that there is, at least on the Google Nest side of things, we have a privacy review that's mandatory for everything that we ship. Goes through legal, goes through privacy review. I think that's the majority of most software features. So there is a mechanism in place to flag those things before they go public. So it's a whole industry at this point.
Yeah, and I like that you mentioned the whole industry because we are into new fields and we have new problems we've never had before, which is amazing, which will create diverse backgrounds that need an understanding to solve a lot of these new problems. So it's fascinating.
Hey guys, my name is Joel. Me and my friends are masters of film production, so we don't really know much about the technology and stuff like that, but I wanted to ask about if you guys knew any opportunities within the companies that have like departments for entertainment or stuff like that, because we are staying up till 2, 3 a.m. doing shot lists and all that sort of stuff. It's different kind of work, but we're still on the grind, So I was wondering if you guys knew any opportunities within the companies.
I know for certain that Google has production teams, doing the same type of situation that you see here on a larger scale. So, there's probably a role for everybody. Like from if you're a chef to working on film, audio, all types of mechanical production. There's all types of things that these huge companies now kind of like have departments for. Google, as you know, Google is doing hardware now. It used to didn't do hardware. So it's always, it seems to be one of these beasts that is continuously growing and thinking about new avenues to investigate.
Yeah. Echo all that stuff. Like, we have a huge event staff, like show production, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. It's a 50,000 person company. Like, they do events. The coolest thing, though, it's not specific to film, but I'm like a recording arts guy, so I'm going to plug it, is using audio to like improve the user experience. So when you're in like Messenger, Facebook Messenger, and like you tap like it was whoop whoop or whatever, like I don't know what it is. I can't do it.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, thanks. Like we have like a team of audio engineers actually, and they have like a full like recording studio. Looks a lot like some of the booths here, where they just like make sound effects, and they're actually held to the same standards as product teams to like whatever the goal is, like if it's to get people to like send more messages, like they'll actually measure the effect of like sound on message sends or things like that. We also have a team called The Factory, which does the video animations and stuff for like your friendversary, like if you've been a friend for 10 years or like your birthday, all those videos and things are also like digital arts people, like generally not software engineers.
Yeah, working on consumer-facing hardware, like there's a huge marketing department. They've got an editing bay. They go on site. There's people. There's art directors. We collaborate closely with those guys too, like regarding UI on a screen. Like what's the right angle for them to be kind of tapping on the screen, and what's the angle of the camera, those types of things. So, dude, and that's just our one program. There's a ton of, I wouldn't say a ton, but there's definitely opportunities out there, and if that's something any of you guys are interested in, again, to that earlier point, like, look at some of those videos and, try to rip them off a little bit. Find, recreate some of those shots, I mean, not shot for shot, but like, you can kind of tailor your reel to working at a tech company, because the perks are great. It's the food's good. There's coffee, baristas everywhere. It's nice.
Yep.
Highly recommended.
So to close things off, I want to thank you guys for being here, but I think you really asked the perfect question for the closing, and that's, I hope you guys go back and take a little bit of this advice, such as the ability to journal and reflect and to step away from what we already know and be part of journaling and writing down what we envision that future to be, and how we will all play, specifically you guys here at Full Sail, will play a role in pushing that forward of what it's going to be. So thank you guys for being here today. Thank you, students, for being here as well.